What about AI? I'm Joseph. This is Input English. Artificial intelligence is a topic that is much discussed in the 21st century. I do not intend an encyclopedic presentation of all the details of artificial intelligence. That would be beyond the scope of what we do here on the Input English channel. My primary goal is to generate comprehensible input on interesting topics so that people around the world can listen to these discussions, watch these videos, and absorb the English language. I also strive to share ideas and information that you may find useful in the context of language acquisition. To set the stage for today's discussion, I would point out that I was taught, don't be the first to adopt something new and don't be the last. This advice is useful to us, the language learners, but it is not useful for innovators and pioneers. By definition, an innovator has to be among the first to adopt something new. They are pioneers. But we are language learners. Our time is finite, and we want to make very good use of our time. The constant question for all of us as language learners is, how do we want to spend our time? From the point of view of a language learner, there are a lot of things about AI that we already know and can list. Number one, AI is here to stay. This is not a fad. This is not something that's going to go out of fashion. It will be here long term. We will be called upon to deal with AI and have adaptive strategies how to use it. Number two, AI is changing. What you see now for AI as compared to what was available a year ago is very different. It's evolving and changing. Number three, we are already using it. Whether we know it or not, we are interacting with AIs every day. When we use a web browser to search the internet, we are interacting with an AI. Number four, it's getting better. As AIs evolve, they improve in their function. They become much more useful to us. Number five, the presence of AI in our lives has generated a new word usage. If you prompt someone, you give them a signal or an instruction to act. There are other meanings for the word prompt, but in this setting, we're going to talk about a prompt as being an instruction or a signal to act. When we interact with an AI, we have to give it an instruction. We have to tell it what we want. And that instruction we issue to the AI is called a prompt. If we are prompting an AI, we are issuing those instructions. The prompting of AIs has become an interesting new problem for human beings because as we use artificial intelligence, we have to be able to communicate with the AI. There is a learning curve for prompting an AI. There has been speculation that the development of better and better AI could make language learning an obsolete concept. Perhaps we would interact with people carrying a device like a cell phone that would provide simultaneous translation, rendering it completely unnecessary for us to learn a new language. Now, I don't see that as a likely scenario. I have worked with simultaneous translation in the past, and when it is well done by a professional, it's still very cumbersome. There will be translation tasks that are going to be well suited to artificial intelligence, but conversations done with simultaneous translation are not normal conversations. I think instead of decreasing the need for language learning, it will promote the ability for us to learn languages in the long run. It has been suggested that we, the language learners, will use AI to generate content so that we don't have to search for content. We can just make it on our own device and use that to learn languages. At the present time, I don't see that as a great option for the language learning community. There are several reasons. One striking reason that we will probably not be making our own comprehensible input with an AI is the availability of excellent comprehensible input on the internet already. This channel was not made by an AI. This channel was created with a huge amount of time expenditure, and each video represents actual human speech by a native speaker. At the present time, an AI cannot boast that. As we contemplate the potential that we will make our own input material, we should refer back to Stephen Krashen's 3 criteria for what constitutes good input. He told us years ago that it should be interesting, it should be understandable, that is, comprehensible, and it should be compelling. It should be delivered to us in a fashion that captures our imagination and draws us into the story. Those are the 3 criteria that we should judge any input that we consider using for language learning. When it comes to AI, we really need to add a 4th criteria not anticipated by Professor Krashen. That 4th criteria is the language being presented needs to be authentic and true to the language, not some strange, robotic collection of words that actually doesn't make any sense. As we interact with AIs, we have to give the AI an instruction of what we want. Frequently, our first instruction is very simple, and then the output falls well short of our expectations. We then realize that the AI needs more specificity, more details, more information to make precisely what we want. We modify our prompt, and it becomes longer and longer. As we continue to modify our prompts, the output gets better and more similar to what we wanted. The trouble with this, of course, is it takes time and there is a learning curve. There's a lot of discussion these days about prompting an AI. People are sharing their prompts online. People put in time to discover a good combination of words to feed into an AI to get the kind of output they desire, and then they share that information online. At the moment, it's not very easy to find specific prompts for specific tasks. At the present time, it is certainly possible to learn how to prompt an AI and have it generate comprehensible input that you can use for your language learning. But this process is very time consuming, and one could easily conclude that your time is better spent simply using the readily available input and not spending your valuable time trying to learn a new technology to generate something that is redundant compared to what is available. At the present time, if you do generate input by AI, you can judge it by the 3 criteria that Dr. Krashen gave us, but judging whether it represents your target language accurately is difficult to do as a language learner. You don't want to spend a lot of time creating a lot of input and then wind up with a strange, image in your mind of how the English language works. We don't want to talk like robots. We want to talk like human beings. Could there be uses for AI for language learners short of having it generate our input? At the present time, I would say perhaps. If you have watched videos on the Input English channel in the past, you will know that I am not a fan of stopping the input to look up words. But we do have this interesting problem of low frequency words. There are many on the internet who advocate that language learners focus primarily on all the high frequency words. Get the low hanging fruit, get the most common words, and then you'll be fine. The trouble with that, of course, is that neglects the richness of the language and does not really prepare you to communicate well with other adults. Whether we like it or not, we need to acquire the low frequency words. With comprehensible input, low frequency words are encountered less frequently. And so it takes a lot of input to acquire these words. I am acutely aware of that, and that is an explanation for how I create the content on this channel. I use standard expressions, I avoid slang, but I do salt in interesting words and expressions that are low frequency words so that you are in contact with them. Then you have the opportunity, if you find some of these expressions or words interesting, to play the video more than once, maybe several times, and by doing so, you can acquire low frequency words. Repeating a video makes a low frequency word more frequent. I have done an experiment. Now, this isn't a high-level scientific investigation. This is just observation of how an AI helps me with a problem. I prompted an AI to create 10 sentences using the phrasal verb wind up. That was the prompt. I read through them, and that created an interesting problem for me because about half of those sentences were fine, but about half of them were strange and did not ring true in our usage of the English language. They were odd. Well, the odd ones we would not want to learn by any method. Comprehensible input, memorization. We don't want the odd stuff in our mind. We want good quality input. That is the resource from which we are learning. So because of this, I don't want to read all the strange ones because I don't want to create input for you that is bad input. Wind up is a phrasal verb that has a number of meanings. You can wind up your watch, although most watches in the modern era don't need to be wound. You can wind up a toy. There are toys that are not electric. They have a spring that needs to be wound up. You can wind up in trouble. That is, you can end up in trouble. You can find yourself in trouble. The result of what's going on is that you're in trouble. If you wind up in trouble, you're in trouble. If someone gets excited, you can say they're wound up. When a pitcher in baseball goes through a series of gyrations in order to throw a pitch, that's called the windup. Those are all normal usages of that word. The AI got all of those right, but it got a bunch of them sort of right. It created at least 5 sentences that would look very out of place in our use of English. Again, as language learners, we're not well positioned to judge how normal a sentence is. versus how strange it is. There's also another fundamental problem with this simple prompt creating these sentences. Let's go back to our criteria. Are these sentences that the AI generated interesting? No. Are they comprehensible? Sure. Are they compelling? Not in the slightest. So it's a 2 out of 3 failure on our criteria, and half the sentences failed on that fourth special criteria because they were strange sentences. So where is all this going? Well, we're looking at AI for language learning at a point in time. We've already acknowledged that AI is evolving, changing, and getting better. As we approach AI in language learning, our approach needs to evolve in parallel with the evolution of the technology. Conclusions drawn today about AI may be void a year from now. My biggest concern about AI is that it is a time sink. It is a hole into which you throw your valuable time. And this is time we could be using to accomplish the things we need to accomplish, the things we want to accomplish, and certainly absorbing input so that we can improve our level in our target language. At the present time, for the most part, I view AI as a distraction. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I am aware of it. I don't use it every day for language learning. As I illustrated with the generation of sentences, it may have some advantages as compared to just looking up a word in the dictionary. Right now, it's a much better option to use your valuable time to use the available input that you can find online, like in this channel. I am intrigued by something that is relatively new. Google has created an AI called Notebook LM. I presume LM is language model. Notebook LM is very interesting. It is readily available, and when you create a notebook, you can import up to 50 different files. These files can be almost anything. They can be PDFs, they can be audiobooks, they can be videos or text files. You can import a tremendous amount of information and group it together in a notebook. Then you can prompt the AI to generate some output, which can be text output, or it can actually be spoken language. One of the things I find interesting is that it will generate in one of 50 languages a podcast style dialogue between two different speakers. Going forward, I'm going to use Notebook LM to see what it can make for me. I can test it in English to see if the output is normal speech, typical of what we would use talking to each other, and then I can test it in Spanish. What I don't want to do is put a large amount of time into this endeavor that would detract from the other important things I am trying to accomplish. We are all very busy. Our time is very valuable to us. And before one takes on a giant project learning a new AI, it may be useful to ask yourself, is it worth it to me at this point? Or should I just stay on track, avoid this distraction, acquire this language, and avoid having this new technology derail my program? I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.